Do you know what this is? This is an earthenware jug, and this is an earthenware jar. And in Bible times, these are the kind of containers that they used to put their food in. Now, in those days, they couldn't just march down to the grocery store and buy flour, could they? Instead, they had to grow it. But you can't grow flour, can you? You have to grow wheat. You're right. And so they'd get it growing in the fields, and it would turn green, and then come fall, it would turn a nice golden yellow, and they'd go out with their big knives and harvest it, and then they'd bring it inside and hang it up to dry. And in this part is where all the little kernels of wheat are. And then after it was all dry, then they could bring it into their house, or sometimes they did it outside very often, in fact. And they had to get the little tiny grains of wheat out of the husk. And you know, I'll tell you, considering how big this whole stalk is, the little grain of wheat is not very big at all. And then when they wanted to make flour, then they could pour some of their kernels of wheat into a little bowl called a mortar, and then they would use the pestle to grind it. I want to tell you a story about some of these things, so don't go away, okay?
It's so good to see you again. Come up for a visit, my friend. There's so much to do. I have so many things planned for you. We'll laugh and we'll play. We'll sing and we'll pray. I'll tell you a story or two. And we'll be friends, you and I. Yes, you and I and Jesus. I'm happy you're here once again. It's so nice to have you as my friend.
Make sure you pay close attention, because we're going to have a mystery word today that you'll want to figure out by the end of this program. Now, I'll be talking along, and certain words that I say will be called key words. And when a key word comes up, it'll show right on this side of the screen at the bottom. And one of the letters in it will be bigger and a bright color. And then that letter from the key word will come over into the right slot of the mystery word. And then you'll have to figure out, as those spaces get filled up, what the mystery word is. Are you ready for our story? Prophet Elijah lived in Israel, and there was a terrible famine happening. And he was so hungry, and he was getting hungrier and hungrier, and God said to him, he said, go to the village of Zarephath, and there will be a widow there who I have commanded to give you food to eat. So he went there, and sure enough, outside the gate, the widow and her little boy were collecting sticks to build a fire. And he walked up to her and he said, would you please give me a drink of water and a loaf of bread? And she looked at him and she said, sir, I can't do that. Why, I only have enough flour and enough oil to make a little loaf of bread for my boy and I. And after we eat it, we'll just die. Well, then Prophet Elijah said to her, he said, you know, God has promised that if you'll make a loaf of bread for me, that the jar of flour will not be used up and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord gives rain on the land. And that promise is in 1 Kings chapter 17. And she looked at him and she thought, and then she decided to trust God and share what she had. So she went in the house and her little boy followed, and they looked in the flour pot. And sure enough, there wasn't much flour there. And so she started to scrape it out and get flour to make it. And her little boy, I'm sure he was just watching. I'm sure he was so curious. And then she had to kind of, shake it to get just the last little bit out. And then she made a little dent in it, and she got her jug of oil. And she had to pour, right? It just was starting to get to the very last drop. There just wasn't even any more left. And she kept mixing, and oh, have you ever smelled when someone's baking bread, the smell of the flour and everything going together? It smells so good. And that's just how the little boy was thinking, and so was the mom, that it just smelled so good. And they wanted to have some of that bread so bad, and yet you know, they knew that this loaf wasn't for them. She kept kneading it together, and she shaped it into the nicest little loaf. And then she put it over on her little fire. Now, of course, I don't have a real fire there, but that's how she baked it, was over on her little fire. And oh, it smelled so good as she was baking it. And when the little boy smelled the good smell, I think he probably thought to himself, I wonder if there's more flour in the barrel. And so he went over and looked, and sure enough, there was more flour. And then he thought to himself, well, I wonder if there's more oil. And he looked, and there was more oil. So she got the jug of flour out again and scooped lots of flour on. And oh, it was going to be so good to have a loaf of bread for them too. And oh, there was just plenty of oil to make it. And she started to mix it up, a loaf for them. In fact, the Bible says that the jar of flour and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. I think I should go wash my hands, and let's go to the Wonder Room, okay? You know, it's good to find out what things mean, isn't it? Let's look up thoughtful. We could look it up in the dictionary or on the computer. Let's use the computer. Now, you need to know how to spell to do this, don't you? Help me spell it, okay? T-H-O-U-G-H-T. That's thought, and then this is thoughtful, so we have to add F-U-L. Thoughtful. Showing concern for others. You know, God has made it so that animals are thoughtful also. Shall we go see some? Come on. Do you like my elephant? I like elephants. I love their long trunks. And you know, I think one of the reasons that God gave elephants trunks was because they use them to help each other when one of them is hurt. If one of them is injured, they use their trunks to lift them up and help take them where they need to go. You know, I read a story once about some elephants who were very sick. They had parasites inside of them that were eating the nutrients, and so they weren't getting any nourishment, and they were getting thinner and thinner, this whole herd of elephants. And so one of the healthy females realized the problem, and she led all the other elephants over to the edge of a cliff. And there was limestone rocks on the cliff, and she had them hack out big pieces of the limestone rocks. And then she told them to mix it with gravel, and then using their trunks, they fed each other this mixture of limestone rock and gravel. And they just fed pounds and pounds of it to each other. And then within 24 hours, they were healthy and they were getting strong again. I think that is so incredible. Do you know when a baby elephant calf is born, there's no doctor or no hospital. And so the different elephant mothers come by and they help. And when one mother has a calf, then the other ones take care of the newborn calf until the mother is healthy enough to do it herself. Another animal that is called a calf when it's a baby is a giraffe. Oh, I like giraffes, don't you? Do you know that giraffes have daycare centers? They do. Just a few of the mothers will gather together all the babies, and then the other mothers will go off and eat and relax, while just a few are taking care of the babies. And then once those ones have eaten, then they come back and they take care of the babies, and the other ones go off and take a break. So they all help each other to get a break and get some rest. I think that's neat. They have to be so careful when they're the ones who are running the daycare center, though, because there are very fierce enemies that would just love to eat a tasty giraffe for dinner. There's leopards and hyenas and lions around that would really make a quick meal out of a giraffe. But you know, even though lions are very fierce enemies of the giraffes, within their own group, or pride is what a lion group is called, they're very gentle and very loving of one another. And the lion mothers are so gentle with their babies. They just take such good care of them. And even the lion adults with each other, they spend a lot of time licking each other and just being kind and gentle with one another. In fact, if one lion is hurt or injured, the other lions will go off and they'll get food, and then they'll bring it back and feed it to the one who's been hurt. You know, I think it is so incredible that God could give animals instinct like that to take care of one another and be thoughtful. I think I want to too.
Lions can help their hurt friends up if lions give each other food. If young giraffes are cared for all day long, then I can be more thoughtful too. I can be more thoughtful, I can be more thoughtful, just like the animals do. If creatures of the wild can show they care, then I can be more thoughtful too.
Hey kids, if you love all the fun things you get to do with Janice and her friends, you'll flip over this. It's Janice's activity book. Loaded with fun, this book teaches scripture through mazes, puzzles, dot-to-dot games, coloring, and more. And the best part is, it's free! Let's take a look inside. The scripture on this page says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, let's circle the pictures that are the same. That's right, you've got the idea. There are many more fun-filled activities in this book just waiting for you. By the way, did I mention it's free? To get your very own copy, have your mom or dad write to Janice's Attic Activity Book, care of 3ABN, P.O. Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois 62896, or call 1-800-752-3226. Don't wait, order yours today.
I'm in right up, right down, right happy all the time.
Oh, this is lots of fun. You know, my friends and I have been talking about doing thoughtful things, and it looks like that's what you're doing here.
Thank you for letting us come. You're so special.
Well, thank you, dear heart. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on.
Tell me something, Edith. Do you like it when these children come and sing?
Come and see me?
Yes.
I should say so. I'm very fond of children.
Oh, that's wonderful. And they brought you flowers and everything.
Yes, I should say so. My.
Well, how does it make you feel when they come?
Well, it gives us a lot of happiness because they're always so happy. The children are always happy.
You know, making other people feel good sure does make you feel good, too. That's what these children have said. And speaking of that, Dr. Neblett is going to tell us about some other things that make us feel so good. So let's go, okay? Hello, Dr. Neblett.
Hello, Janice.
We just got back from visiting some shut-in friends.
That must have been like a ray of sunshine for them.
It was. And you know what? It also brightened my day to be able to do it.
Well, you know, that reminds me of what sunshine does for us.
How's that?
Well, a couple of things. You know sunshine makes us warm.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps to kill germs, which is important to me as a doctor.
I'll say.
But it also helps us to grow because the sun comes to our skin and our skin turns it into vitamin D, which makes our bones grow.
Okay.
Not only us, but also plants.
But why are you bringing up plants?
Well, the reason why I'm bringing up plants is because the sun gets on the leaves and the leaves make oxygen, and the oxygen is what's important for us.
So the leaves must give the oxygen off, because I don't. Is that how we get it?
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, let me show you on Frank, our model
Okay.
right here. When we breathe in oxygen, it goes to our lungs, which are right here, and that it goes out to our body. As a matter of fact, I'd like to show you how this works. You know, we can live a while without food. You've probably known that. And we can also live not as long without water.
Yeah.
But without oxygen, we can only live a few minutes. So you want to try an experiment with me? Maybe the kids at home can try it too.
Okay, okay.
All right, here we go. What I want you to do is to take a big breath, then your lungs expand, and I want you to hold it.
Oh.
Okay, can you do that?
Okay, right now? Okay, let's go.
Now, what you just did was to breathe in oxygen through the lungs, which I call my station. And our heart, which is like the engine, takes that oxygen out into the tissue. When it gets out here, we pick up a carbon called carbon dioxide, and it comes back around. How are you doing? Okay, wait a minute, I'm almost there. Wait, almost there. And it comes back to the station, and now you can breathe.
That was hard, wasn't it?
Okay, now what you just breathed out was carbon dioxide, CO2.
Oh, is this CO2 like a name for carbon dioxide?
Exactly right. And this carbon dioxide goes over to our plants, and with the sunlight and the carbon dioxide, it makes oxygen. That oxygen comes right back over to us. We breathe it into our lungs, and we breathe out carbon dioxide, and around the circle goes.
So We need the plants to make oxygen, and the plants need us to make carbon dioxide.
That's exactly correct.
What a lot of thought God must have put into making this world work like that.
I think it's marvelous. Without us making carbon dioxide, the plants would not grow. Without the plants making oxygen, we couldn't live.
That's wonderful. You know, I really think you're right. I think fresh air and sunshine are important because it must keep us healthy. And when I feel good, then I love doing nice things for other people.
I agree.
Fresh air and sunshine, fresh air and sunshine, keeps you healthy along your way. Fresh air and sunshine, fresh air and sunshine, brighten your day today. Just like a breath of fresh air, just like a ray of sunshine, you can chase those clouds away. Fresh air and sunshine, fresh air and sunshine, brighten your day today. Brighten your world today.
Did you know that one of the best ways to become a good friend of Jesus is by spending personal time with him every day? Well, adults do that by praying and by reading their Bibles. But if you can't read, it's kind of hard, isn't it? Or maybe you just like listening to tapes. Well, here's a fun way to have your very own devotions every morning when you get up. Janice has made these morning time devotions for her kids and for you, complete with songs, prayers, and stories. For more information, have your parents write to Morning Time Ministries, Box 208A, Kitwanga, that's Kitwanga, British Columbia, V0J 2A0, or call 1-800-263-7671. Here's the number again, 1-800-263-7671.
Can you see air? You can't, can you? But you can feel it. Take a big, deep breath. Could you feel it going into your mouth? I could. You can't see it, but even though you can't see it, it's nearly everywhere. Here's an experiment you can try at home in order to prove that. You need a bowl, and you need to put water in your bowl, and then you need a cup. And if you want, you can do what I've done. You can put a piece of paper around the inside of the cup. And now let's try something to see if there's air inside this cup. Can you see the air? You can't, can you? When you put it into the water, push it straight down, right down to the bottom. Now let's pull it up and see if there's water in it. And pull it straight up again. Did the paper get wet? No, because the air inside the cup made it so that the water couldn't go in. There was no room for it. Now let's do it again. Push it straight down. Now tilt the cup like this, and what's happening? Bubbles. The air from the inside of the cup is bubbling out and letting water go in. And so now, look at the paper. It's all wet. You know, air kind of reminds me of love. You can't see it, can you? And just like love, you can't see love either. But when God puts love inside your heart, it makes you do things for other people that you can see. I think that's neat.
Thoughtfulness and selfishness, they're hard to learn. But God has promised He will help me every day. He'll help me see a way to make your work so light. He'll help me find a way to make your day so bright. With people around me, I can share. For people around me, I can care. The people around me need my love. The people around me need to know about God above.
The Bible says that love is the most powerful thing there is. I wonder how that can be when you can't see love. Well, let's think about it. Remember, we talked before about how air and love are kind of the same. You can't see air either, but it's strong too. And here's an experiment you can try as long as you have an adult or a parent to help you that will show that to you. Take like a pop bottle, a good strong plastic bottle, and take the lid and make a little hole in the top to stick a straw through. Then take modeling clay and seal up on each side because you want it to be airtight. And then in your bottle, put some ice cubes in the bottom of the bottle, and then it's fun to put in some food coloring to have it make a color. And then put cold water in, and I'll just put a little bit more. And you want to fill the bottle maybe about a third full. And then you put the lid on and get the lid nice and straight so that it'll make a nice tight seal. And this is the part where you want to roll up your sleeves or have on an apron and then lower it into a nice hot pot of water and then see what happens. Now, do you want to know why this is happening? The air inside the bottle is being warmed by the hot water. And when air gets warmed, it gets bigger. And so then when it gets bigger, it pushes on the water that was in the bottle and pushes the water up and out the straw. That's kind of what God's love is like, isn't it? When He warms us with His love, we just bubble out with nice things that we want to do for people. Let's go have a story, okay? Are you ready for a story?
Yeah.
You know, this book, when I was a little girl, The Secret of the Cave, was my favorite book. And I want to share the story with you now. It was the talk of the village. Everybody was wondering who was in McCullum's cave last night. Old Peter MacDonald had been going home very late, and he had an old gray beard, and he walked with a cane, and he was going home with his sheep. And as he was walking along in front of the cave, he had heard banging noises like with hammers and nails and boards. And, of course, he didn't get afraid because Scottish shepherds don't get afraid or anything. But he did walk home just a little bit faster that night. And they couldn't figure it out because all of them had explored that cave so many times. And they knew, you know, it had little alleyways and, you know, all different ways you could go inside the cave, and they knew that nobody was in the cave, and so everybody was talking about it. Over at the store they were talking about it, on the street corners they were talking about it, and one person would say, I think it's spies, and another person would say, oh no, it's smugglers, and then someone else would say, it couldn't be spies and it couldn't be smugglers, because what would spies want to see over at our village in Longview? Why, we're just a sleepy little village, there's nothing to see. And then someone else would say, and what would smugglers want? I mean, why would they want to be hiding things way out here? I mean, this isn't near any big city or anything. So nobody could figure it out. Finally, some of the people just said, we think Peter MacDonald is hearing things. He's getting old and his hearing's going funny. That's what it is. But there were two boys who were very, very interested in the story. And that was Oscar and Bruce McLaren. They were the sons of the gamekeeper who lived just a little bit out on the outskirts of the village. And they would run from this group and they'd listen to those details, and then they'd go and they'd listen to these details at another group because they just were so curious to find out who it could be. Now, their mom and dad were away because their mother had gotten very, very sick. And so their father had taken their mother to a hospital way over in Glasgow. So they were home all alone, and so this was very exciting for them. Well, the next day, some of the villagers decided that they really should go out to the cave and just look through the cave, because then at least they'd be able to figure out whether Peter MacDonald was really hearing things or not. And you can imagine when the villagers decided to go, guess who wanted to go with them?
Peter and Oscar.
Oh, Peter and Oscar wanted to go so bad, but the villagers told them they couldn't. They said, Peter and Oscar, if we let you go, what if you got shot? Your parents, they'd be so upset when they came back and found two dead boys. We can't let you go. But Peter and Oscar begged to be able to go, so finally they decided to let them. Well, it was evening when they headed out towards the cave, quite a big group of men, plus the 2 boys. And they walked, and finally they got there. Now the tide was out, and so they could kind of start climbing up to the cave. And a whole bunch of the men said, well, we'll wait down here at the entrance. We won't go inside. And only 6 men were brave enough to go in. And Oscar and Bruce wanted to go inside so bad. And the other men said, no, you need to stay down here with us. But Oscar and Bruce just begged to go inside, so finally they let them go in. And they came up to the entrance of the cave, and it was all dark and black inside. And whoo, you make a sound like that and your voice echoes. And everybody was kind of nervous and their hearts were kind of patting. Anyways, they flipped on their flashlights and in they went. And they started going down this alley, and then they'd come out of that one because there was nothing there. And so they'd go down this alley, and finally they came to a place where there were some rocks falling down. And people started looking at that. And then Oscar said, oh, look on up here. There's some marks on the wall. Let's look up here. But there was nothing there either. So they all came out, and they went home. And the next day, everybody said, oh, Peter MacDonald, he's just hearing things. It's not really true. But that very night, there was a huge storm, and a boat was just disappeared from the beach during the storm, and nobody could figure it out because Scottish fishermen always tie up their boats perfectly. They don't leave their boats loosely. They tie them up really well. And so everybody thought somebody had stolen the boat. Well, you can imagine their surprise when just a few days later, the boat appeared back on the beach. It was tied up, and it had a patch over a little hole that it had gotten somehow while it was gone. You can imagine that everybody in that village was wondering and talking. And next week, we'll find out more. Do you remember our mystery word? Did you catch it? You're right, it was sunshine. Sunshine is kind of like thoughtfulness, isn't it? Because sunshine makes us happy, and being thoughtful makes people happy. You know, you've made me happy today, and I'd like to see you again next time, okay? Bye-bye.